Welcome everybody, how you doing? Thanks for being here today at the TechSmart facility. My name is Anthony Capice. My real job is the Executive Director of the Central Avenue Business Improvement District down in Albany. I'm going to be only for a brief period of time your acting MC as our President and Vice President. They're not from the area, so the circles are giving them a little bit of trouble. We'll get over that, they'll be fine, don't worry about it. But it's the circles. It's always the circles. It's crop circles. It's traffic circles. It doesn't matter. But thank you for being here. Before we get started, it's really important, as you're thanking people, it wouldn't be possible if it wasn't for the sponsors. So I want to make sure we cover everybody. Brian McMahon, would you stand up and say thank you from New York State Economic Development Council. Thank you for being a sponsor. Much appreciated. Dennis Brobson and Tori Riley from Saratoga Development Corporation. Where are you guys? Oh, there you go. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Of course, a very good friend to us, Mike Tucker, is over here, Mike, who, if you guys don't know, has decided at the end of this year he's going to retire, so, from CEG. So when his resume goes up on the screen, please make note of the email address and phone number. Appreciate that very much. And a big thanks goes out to Penny Hill here at the facility. I think she's in her office. Oh, no, she's up there. Penny, thanks for all your help today in pulling this together. Much appreciated. Thank you very much. As far as planning an event in a facility, they certainly do make it easy, and it's a wonderful facility we wanted to highlight. I personally wanted to thank Rich Bennett from the Workforce Development Institute at Hudson Valley Community College. Rich, thank you. And I have to be nice to him. He sits on my board of directors. So, Rich, great job. Thank you very much. Really appreciate it. But why are we here? Well, the program is about workforce development, but let me explain a little bit about how we got to this type of an event. NEDA's board has been working on growing and expanding our organization and doing different things and moving into technology, kicking and screaming, but we're getting there. New websites, and Krista will tell you all the technology we're using, and you check out our website, you'll see what's going on there. We're really trying to communicate with our members. And so we found that when the board was having its meetings, we're traveling, there's 11 states that are represented in NEDA. We travel around to all these different places and we get into a town, and you think about it, you're bringing all these economic development professionals from all over the Northeast, and there's all that raw talent in a room. Why not bring it to that local community and let them take advantage of it? So that's what you're going to see a little bit later in the program. I'm not going to take up that. That's a great concept. You come to the town, we negotiate back and forth, but let the folks that do that take care of it. But I wanted to invite you to this wonderful facility. This is really just a great thing, and as you can see, it's in the middle of this beautiful pine grove, and there's all this technology development that's going on around here. So please talk to the folks from Saratoga about what's going on here and how interesting all this development is, and we're going to share some stories back and forth. Right now I'm going to turn it over to our Executive Director, Jim Kibe, who's going to take it from here. But thank you everybody for coming here, and this is a really fun interactive session, so you're not allowed to sit still and just be... My son's calling me. You're not allowed to sit still. You have to participate in this, okay? This is a two-way thing, and we're glad you're here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Anthony. Anthony put a lot of time into getting this prepared, in working with the folks, the AV folks, to make sure we're doing this. And you're noticing that we are filming all of this because at NEDA we've been struggling with the idea of how do we have live events and still have educational program and still involve all of our NEDA members who are members from Maine down to Maryland. So what we're trying to do today, this is the first time we're actually videoing the event, and then we'll be able to post it on our website, and all of our partners will be able to post it on their websites so that our members can watch at their leisure. We'll send out the PowerPoint presentation, and they'll be able to engage. And we're really happy that we're doing this with our state partners, Brian's group, New York State EDC. It's great to be working with them. Every place that we've been going, whether it's New Jersey or Pennsylvania or Connecticut or Maine, we try to work with the local state association and put these programs together. So, in the future, we hope to actually have this be a live streaming event. I think the one that we're shooting for maybe in April or May out in Massachusetts is going to be the same format, different topic, hopefully working with Bridgewater State University, but then have a live stream that people can actually come on board and watch while it's going on, even if they're down in Pennsylvania or in Maryland.
You all remember me, right? Wasn't gone that for long. You know, I'm the chairman of the Workforce Development Advisory Board for Hudson Valley Community College. Again, I've introduced Rich earlier. And I think it's really important when you're talking about workforce development, you talk about it in the sense of partnerships. And Hudson Valley has a space in our district, and they bring students from the community into our district, and we work very closely with them. There's a type of leadership that requires the type of thinking that brings academia into your world and finds a way to combine business and academics together. And I could talk about the facility that's across the street from my office. If you're trying to do client-specific training in workforce, they've developed a program where they had a client, CVS, and CVS said, we need to teach our farm techs how to work in a facility. So the idea of developing a program of building a mini pharmacy in an urban center, it's a mock pharmacy, but it's still a pharmacy, in an urban center in a downtown, and training people from the neighborhood and the community where they're going to work for a corporate client. That's a partnership. It takes vision, takes leadership. And that's the kind of person that Drew brings to the table. And Hudson Valley is a renowned community college. We're proud to have Hudson Valley in the capital region to show the leadership in developing facilities like this, where you're seeing, I mean, if you look around this facility, what do you have? Wind tunnels, partnerships with GE. This is just a monumental effort and a fantastic effort, and it comes from leadership. And so we want to congratulate them and also give them a chance to welcome you to their facility. So I'd like to introduce the president of Hudson Valley Community College, Drew Matnock. Thank you. Thanks for having us here.
Thank you. Anthony, you ought to stay right here because you're the best, the best thing we've got going. We've got to put you on, we've got you on film, so we're going to have to put you into some commercials. So that's great. Hi, everybody. How you doing? Oh, good. I need to tell you, I've been flying today. We have, as all colleges do, where we need to go through accreditation every once in a while. We have our national accreditation body on campus, a visiting committee that was here all day today, and I just finished with them and ran up here. So I'm glad that I was able to make it in time for you. So and I appreciate that. How many of you have been to this facility before? I know a few of you have. I'm going to talk a little bit about that. And really it's about partnerships, and I'm glad to see that Mike Tucker is here because we do a lot of things with them as well. This particular facility, and I do have some notes, so I'm going to refer to some of those. It's all about collaboration, and it's all about working with and identifying partners. And that's how this particular facility came about. As Anthony just mentioned, we have two extension centers, one at 175 Central Avenue in Albany, and this one, as well as our main campus. And this facility came about because of two things that were kind of coming together at the same time. One was the state was trying to attract, what was the name of the company before Global Foundries? AMD. They were trying to attract AMD at the time, and one of the big issues that they had was for semiconductor technicians. And then working with NYSERDA, we had done a number of things with NYSERDA in terms of providing workforce training. And there was a real interest in doing clean energy programs. So taking those two things together, we were able to get the money that we needed to be able to build this facility. And it's really about building the education pipeline, providing opportunities for students and people in the community for jobs that are right here in our area. And that's really what we focus on. So the TechSmart facility is a $13.5 million project that we got from state dollars. We also had some private dollars and grant funding to be able to contribute towards that. And our landlord is NYSERDA. So we have a land lease with NYSERDA, so we're actually on their property. And it's a great, great partnership. I didn't see Mary. Is Mary Burke here? No, Amber's here. Good to see you. But the partnership that we have with NYSERDA is absolutely tremendous. And it grew from a very small pond grant that was, I'm going to say like $15,000 for us to be able to do some training. And then it kind of expanded into much more. And it really, a lot of the efforts that the early efforts that we had were really that partnership with NYSERDA that was really important to us. So whenever we first started looking at our semiconductor manufacturing program, and we knew that there was going to be a need for technicians in the area, we sent a couple of our faculty members over to Dresden, Germany, to the Fab 1 plant there, to be able to learn what kind of skills they're looking for, so that then we can build those skills into our program. And so that was very helpful to us as we started to evolve that program. And I'm going to talk a little bit in a second about how that has evolved into another program that we have at the college. So TechSmart has been here for 5 years now. There's a dozen classrooms and labs here. Just going right down the line here, we have the photovoltaic lab, semiconductor lab, the geothermal lab, the wind lab, and then this one started off as an automotive lab for electric vehicles. And it turned out that later on we realized, you know, we really need to be doing that on campus, and we were doing some. So we actually moved that lab back down to campus. But those are the individual labs here, and then as you well know, we have a number of classrooms, a computer lab, a seminar room, a conference room, plus some offices. And so we really use this space very well. I'm going to talk about another partner in a second that really has evolved in this particular building. So this building was designed to be able to provide not just training in education in the clean technologies, but also to show people how those technologies are actually used in a building. This is a LEED Platinum building. One of the, I think there may have been one or two platinum buildings in the state of education buildings in the state of New York. I don't know how many are here now, but we were one of the first. And we utilize a lot of the clean energies. You see the photovoltaic cells out there. You see the turbines, the geothermal wells underneath. So we're using all of that as well as indirect light, indirect energy. The louvers here actually shine on the wall, and that actually heats the building somewhat. So we're utilizing those technologies here in the building so that we can demonstrate how that actually works. The partnership that I wanted to tell you about is the partnership that we started off with Ballston Spa Community School District. And that started off very small. It was an early college high school. We were one of 16. Actually, this was one of 16. Hudson Valley actually got 2. One is with Troy High School, and then the one here. So there were only 16 in the state, and we actually were associated with 2 of them, which we were very proud of. But that particular program is designed for clean technologies and sustainable industries in the area, and that's how they designed the curriculum. So it's really kind of cool how they've been able to build that program. It started off with students from Ballston Spa High School as well as Saratoga High School. It has now grown to 21 school districts in the area, and help me out, Penny, 200 students now. So it's really grown. So essentially the students come here, they're bused here in the morning, and they take their college level courses, and then they would go back to the high school and pick up the rest of their curriculum. So it's really worked out well with a number of the different school districts. Those students can earn up to 20 credits, college credits, before they graduate from high school, which really helps them in moving on, whether they're going to go to Hudson Valley or not. And I think Joe Dragoni from Boston Spa told me that last year, about 60% of the students that graduated from the program actually went to Hudson Valley. A couple went to CNSE, one went to Union. They're going on to very good institutions, and they're taking those credits with them, which is really, really important. We want to expose them to all of those different opportunities, and that's the reason why we're providing this program. We also want to make sure that we're addressing students that are at risk and students that are coming from disadvantaged backgrounds, because we want to make sure that we're providing them that pathway to their future. So we've actually expanded that program now to include, and Penny, I know I'm going to forget a couple of the different options now. It's right behind me? Oh, okay, there you go. Clean energy, computer science, information systems, nanotechnology, semiconductor, and entrepreneurship, leadership, and innovation. So it creates another opportunities. You did that on purpose, thank you. But it really creates an opportunity for us to be able to provide pathways for the students. And so I didn't want to spend a whole lot of time, but I did want to talk about two new programs, one that we just got approved from State Ed and another one that we're still waiting for State Ed's approval. And the first one is related to Global Foundries, but also a number of other companies in the area. And it's called Mechatronics. It's kind of a strange name, but it combines mechanical technology with electronics. And those are the kind of skills that, as Global Foundries is evolving and they're defining more closely what they are looking for, we're able to build a program to be able to provide those kind of skills, as well as for GE and a number of other companies in the area. The other degree that we have not yet gotten authorization from State Ed is in clean energy degree to supplement the other programs that we have. And so another program that I wanted to mention to you, and Anthony already mentioned the Workforce Development Institute, so I appreciate that, and I see Rich is back here, is the program that we just started with GE. We're a demonstration site for GE for their new fuel cell technology. They've got a new facility right next door to us, and they're developing this new technology. And so they're going to actually be using that technology on this building, supplementing the other sources of energy that we have here. And then they're going to be able to refine that, work out the bugs, so that whenever they're ready to go out to the market, we're actually a demonstration site for them. And so that's really a great partnership that's new, and we're just getting started with that. In fact, Penny, have we determined a site yet? It's right. I see. I haven't been up here for a couple days, so that's good to hear. So that's really all the things that I wanted to share that are updates for you on things that are happening at the college. I'd certainly take any questions that you might have, or if somebody else wants to come up here and talk great things about Hudson Valley, I'd be happy to yield the microphone. But I appreciate the opportunity for you to be here. I'm glad that those of you who have not had the opportunity to be at this facility were able to join us and to be more aware of what we're trying to do up here in Malta. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you so very much. And again, for those of you, when you go back to your community, just take a second to think about a community college that just exudes some amazing programs, and what an offer of opportunity is for the people in this community, in this region. It really, truly is a great example. And I think when you go back home, if your local community colleges are not doing and bringing this type of level of involvement in workforce development and community engagement to your community, give you a call. Is that okay? Just let them know. All right, good, because it's a good example of what to set. I'm going to turn it over right now to Rob Camoin, who's going to take us to the next level. Thanks.
Great, thank you, Drew. That was great information and wonderful stuff that's going on in this area. Our next speaker is Melinda Mack. She runs the New York Association of Training and Employment Professionals. Prior to that, she was in workforce for the WIB in New York City. I've heard her speak before at Brian McMahon's organization conference on WIOA, the Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act, as well as what is happening now with the integration of workforce and economic development. And we asked her to come today to talk a little bit about that, as well as what's going on in WIOA and giving us an update. Great. Thank you, Melinda.
So I was really excited that I was going to get to go before the president because he may have stole some of my thunder. So one, thank you for that because my remarks will be short. But two, it also shows that we have some reinforcing points. So as Rob mentioned, my name's Melinda Mack. I'm the executive director of NIATEP, which is a very short way of saying a lot of things. We're the Workforce Development Association for the state. We're not just workforce boards. We're everyone who does workforce and economic development. We have community colleges. We have BOCES programs, which are adult and continuing ed. Community-based organizations, you name it. We have employer groups as well that are part of our group. What's really important to us is really thinking about that interconnection between economic development and workforce development. I actually started my career back in Albany, but it feels like a gazillion years ago, before any of this was this. And in fact, I started my work in economic development. And one of the things that I was really drawn to in terms of the field was the human capital piece. We consistently talked to employers, and the human capital piece was missing. Economic development, and again, coming from the workforce community, I'm giving you the broad strokes of what folks think when they think of economic development. They think competition for land, competition for space, competition for skills. In workforce, I'm sure you all think of us as sort of those do-gooders who want the low-income people in our communities to be successful. You don't have to raise your hand. I won't ask for a show of hands if that's what you think the assumptions are. But I can tell you after talking to folks, that is what the assumption is. I can tell you that I think we're both wrong, right? I think the ultimate goal that we all have is that the communities that we're working within are as successful as possible. There's a bunch of things that contribute to that, and I'm going to talk through those in a minute. But there's also a lot of opportunity that's here now that hasn't been here in a very long time. A couple of those opportunities I think you'll all be familiar with, and some I hope are new news to you. Before I get started, though, I wanted to ask how many folks have enough money to do the work that you're doing? Okay, good. I'm glad that no one raised their hand, because if that person raised their hand, I would say go talk to that person because they might have some cash to spare. A lot of what I'm going to talk about, I think, is a result of the fact that we've all had to get a lot more creative in the last couple of years. Our funding has been cut pretty dramatically, not just for economic development, but for workforce development. The federal funding for workforce has been reduced by more than 50% in the last 10 years. So those folks who you worked with 10 or 15 years ago who could do all of this innovative job training, they don't have the money to do those resources anymore. So what has it meant? It's meant a few things. The workforce field has evolved away from sort of the silver bullet approach, which I think you've all evolved from as well. I'm from Buffalo, and I can tell you we waited for a silver bullet for a really long time. And I would say the governor's Buffalo Billion isn't exactly a silver bullet because it actually comes with a lot of different economic development strategies that have been a long time coming and sort of lay on top of each other. What we do know is a coordinated approach of economic and workforce development is what matters and what sticks. What that means is taking a deep dive with employers. And so I actually heard a great example last week when I was down in New York City talking with the folks who run the Brooklyn Navy Yard. They have a huge, huge expanse of real estate that they can utilize at any given point. And one of the things that I thought that really stuck with me is we don't speak enough to the landlords, meaning workforce providers. The landlords have a really deep understanding of employer needs. They know who's expanding, when they're going to expand, when those leases are up, what kind of facilities they're creating or building. The deeper connection with those landlords and workforce providers allows you to create the pipeline that the president of HVCC was talking about. All too often, the workforce folks are engaged at the point where the company is ready to open their doors. The places that it works the best is when the workforce field has been engaged long before those companies decide to open those doors. And when I think about the pipeline, what we think about is not just sort of the highly skilled positions. So we're talking about the 4-year degrees and the 2-year degrees, which of course are really important, but really thinking about the full pipeline of workforce development activity that has to happen. That includes working with community-based organizations in your communities, because we also hear that Retention is a huge issue for employers, especially for employers that are paying less than $20 an hour, which are many folks that, again, many folks have jobs that are less than 20 an hour. Community-based organizations provide support for those individuals working so that the retention rate goes down, or retention rate goes up, and the turnover rate goes down for many of those folks working in that organization. What I mean when I say that is they can provide wage support, they can provide support around childcare, they can provide support around connecting their elementary school age or preschool age folks to pre-K and daycare, all really critical things for employers that employers don't need to or want to pay for. And so let's figure out a way to make sure that those assets that we have are in place so that the employers can be successful. What's also changed is that there is a much bigger relationship between economic success of individuals in a community and the economic success of a local area. And so what we've recognized is thinking about how we create opportunities for economic success for the full population actually raises the entire economic success of a region. And so you look at a place like Malta, which again, there wasn't a ton going on here sort of 20 years ago, and you think about sort of the wealth generation and the economic success that's been generated, not only from the economic sort of engine that is Luther Forest and the folks that are part of this facility, but thinking about the shops that have had to pop up, thinking about all of the educational changes that have had to be made. There's a lot that goes into these growths and expansions, and a lot of that comes with sort of that economic investment that's made at the forefront. In addition to that, career pathways is something that we're talking about all of the time now. We joke in the field that ideas that were around 25 years ago are new again, which tends to happen, right? But there's a much different emphasis on career pathways at this point. A career pathway is something where an individual is able to go into a pathway and sort of stop out to work and then come back into a pathway and gain a credential again, step out to work, et cetera, et cetera. Some of those are happening within organizations. So healthcare, for example, has a really defined career pathway. So you can start as a home health aide, move up to CNA, take on an LPN, RN, and there's opportunities for you to earn wages in and out of that pathway. But we're also seeing pathways, for example, in mechatronics, where folks are coming in with very specific skill-based or technical skills that they're learning, getting certificates from community colleges or BOCES program, which are cooperative education systems here, stepping out into the workplace, getting some skills and experience, and in many instances, the employers are supporting those folks to come back to gain some additional skills or credentials. It's an opportunity for folks to access these jobs that are actually going to promote economic development across your community in a much deeper way. We also know that workforce stability for employers is really critical. I mentioned a minute ago about retention and turnover, but we're consistently hearing how many employees an employer has to interview before they hire just one. I was with a group of food processors earlier this week. They were giving us on average between 500 and 700 resumes that they have to review before they can hire one individual. That's an incredible amount of work. And it's really ridiculous when you think about all of the services that are available across the system. Workforce investment boards, workforce career centers, they're known as recruiters. They really are the recruiters. What they do is they sit and talk with employers, they understand those needs, and then they can do the recruitment for the candidates to get that job pool down to a very small number. So they only have to interview the top 25 or 30 candidates. Use those tools in your community, make your employers more cost effective, and also save them some time and some money. Again, those resources exist across the system. So a couple of things I just wanted to leave you with, and again, these are all things you're going to hear throughout the presentation and the sort of the deep dive we're going to do this afternoon. I really urge you to think about and leverage the tools that you have within your local community. The labor market data is critical if you're not using it and using it well, and communicating that labor market data so you're all working from the same playbook. Odds are you're not going to be successful. Workforce training is going to become a bigger and bigger player in the next couple of years, not only through the community colleges, but for many of the community-based organizations and other entities that do training. As Rob mentioned, the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act, which is the federal legislation, was reauthorized this past year and will be implemented on July 1, 2015. So a lot of those barriers that the workforce system may have had previously have been eliminated, and so you'll find a much more flexible workforce system moving forward, and folks who are really eager to figure out that deeper connection. We also know that pipelines are going to be important. So you shouldn't be thinking about that first job for someone. You should be thinking about what that second, third, and fourth job are for that person within that pipeline. So as you're going and recruiting companies and talking to them about their workforce needs, you also really need to understand and communicate to the workforce providers what those needs are going to look like in 5 and 10 years, because sometimes it takes 5 and 10 years to get the workforce ready to do those jobs. Again, going deep with employers. We can no longer have surface relationships. Those relationships need to be deep. And when I say deep, we need to understand who their suppliers are, who their supply chains are, what not only are they going to influence sort of in that local community, but what the values they have, as well as their strategies around recruitment, hiring, and retention. If you can communicate those to your workforce folks, they can give you the skilled labor that they need to be successful. And then finally, find and integrate this into your planning. I think as we think about economic development strategies, community-wide strategies, we're often sort of doing this off the cuff. You see someone at an event, you meet someone somewhere, you say, hey, do you know so-and-so? We should figure out how to connect. Nobody has time to do anything anymore. I know I don't have a lot of time. I have a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old, so I really have no time. But ultimately, your time that you spend on this will pay dividends that you could never expect. Because it's that planning, it's that relationship building, it's that deep understanding of each side of the house that are going to allow you to be more thoughtful and strategic about how you recruit the right companies for your community, how you train the people you have to do the work that's coming, and more importantly, how you can sustain that over the long haul. Because no one wants to do all the work to recruit that company to have them leave in 5 years, right? So with that, I'm really excited to be here today. I'm excited to share with you the things that we've been doing, but also to connect you with some of the knowledge that we have as we work in our small groups, and also really delighted that the folks from Saratoga are going to share the work that they're doing. I don't know about it in detail, but what I do know is that they're actually emulating a lot of the things that have already been shared around partnerships, resource sharing, and really thinking differently about how they approach the work together. So thank you.
Great. Thank you very much, Melinda. Our next person up, Robert Lever. You made it. Thank you. You got here. Robert, yeah, I don't know where he is. I don't know. We're going to have to talk about that. Okay, good. Hopefully he's on his way. Robert, you're going to explain the session.
Turn it right back to you. Good evening. Afternoon, actually. It's still afternoon. We've been experimenting in NEDA with something called a learning lab. My partner back there, Tom Morano, and I have pioneered this in Hartford. We're bringing it to Malta, and we're going to keep it on the road for all of our quarterly board meetings. And the idea is that we have local practitioners who are struggling with stuff, and we as board members coming from everywhere in the region can be helpful to you. So that's how we're going to work this out. So Rob's going to set it up in a minute, and then Bill and Tori are going to lay some stuff out. Then we're going to create 4 groups in this room. And I'm not going to reveal yet what the topics are because they're embedded in the presentation. You'll work together for a little bit, giving some advice and counsel to Tori and Bill. And then toward the end, I'll pass out some cards for you. And the idea is to really say, wow, we talked about a lot of stuff, but what advice do we most want Bill and Tori to hear and take away? And you write those on cards. We'll hear your thoughts. I'll collect the cards, do a summary, obviously give it to you guys, but we also post that on the NEDA website for others in our membership to take a look at as well. So, Rob, back to you.
Thank you, Robert. And let's see. Okay, so I'm going to set it up, this particular session. I'd like to introduce Bill Ressi from the Saratoga, Warren, Washington WIB. Yep, they get first. WIB. Tori Riley from the Saratoga Economic Development Corporation. Right there is a marriage of workforce and economic development. We had approached Tori and SEDC back in September. Talked to them about what we were starting to see more of out in the country around workforce strategic planning, and offered them our services around a workforce/economic development strategy in Saratoga County with really a focus on workforce. They brought Bill in very quickly, and it turns out that they also we're seeing quite a need for that here in Saratoga County. So we developed a scope, an approach. We've been working with them, And so today's session is around their presentation of where they're at, and we're going to utilize you for the last stage of really this project, which is recommendations that the steering committee and both the WIB and SEDC will consider as a part of the plan. So I'm going to turn it over to, I think Tori's going to talk first, or you're both going to come up and talk about, we're going to cover the objectives, a little bit of background. They're going to present to you what we have learned so far, and they'll talk about the industries they're going to focus on, and then I'll probably come back up and start to pose some of the questions for you and for the 4 groups that Robert alluded to. Great. Tori.
Good afternoon. My name is Tori Riley. I'm the Vice President of Saratoga EDC. Thank you and welcome to Saratoga County, New York. We're very glad to have you here, and thank you for including us today. My partner, Bill Ressi, we've worked together for a long time and have had the opportunity to share in exactly what Melinda was speaking to, and that is joining forces. We all have limited resources, and we're doing more with less, and we're pretty excited to have partners like WIB to continue our mission. A little bit about SEDC. We are a nonprofit organization. We were formed in 1978 to serve as the single point of business contact for Saratoga County. We are 100% privately funded at this time, which is a little scary and exciting as well. It leaves us with a lot of opportunities, and we're certainly seeing that. As Melinda mentioned, there's projects in the pipeline, there's opportunities, and we need to really be prepared and plan ahead so we don't get what we want, or we don't get what we get what we want. So with that being said, we work together. Our project objectives for this will be to foster a competitive workforce, to retain and attract investment. We will also help employers address growing issues, and we'll focus on some key industries. So a little bit about the project background. In spring of 2013, Saratoga released an economic development plan that identified the highest growth industries. So a strong workforce leads to a strong economy. Needed a plan to address the workforce needs of those industries, among others, and hence the partnership of SEDC, WIB, became alive, and we started with a steering committee. We are co-leading the workforce strategic plan so that we're hopefully including every possible question, opportunity, and challenge so we're best prepared moving forward. We're supporting targeted industries, and it requires collaboration between workforce and economic development corporations. The steering committee was comprised of business representatives of a variety of industries, and actually several of the members are on the WIB board. The study approach. We identify key industries. We started with 6, and we actually focused on 3. The data and analysis on the industries will be included. Interviews with employers are still ongoing, and we also have interviews with workforce stakeholders. We've identified major challenges and opportunities, and we'll also identify strategies with specific action items. SEDC, WIB, and the steering committee initially identified 6 target industries ranging in size, occupation, makeup. The 6 were advanced manufacturing, there were business and financial services, health and wellness, marketing services, tourism and hospitality, transportation and logistics. Based on the employment size, growth, and types of positions available, and the ability of the efforts to push the needle, basically where can efforts to support workforce development and training make the biggest impact and difference. And these were industries with good wages but low education requirements. So we narrowed those to 3. We have the advanced manufacturing, health and wellness, and tourism and hospitality. The reason that we kind of targeted down to 3, in terms of employment, the 3 clusters selected are extremely important to the Saratoga economy. Combined, the 3 represent 60% of the new jobs projected to be created in Saratoga over the next 10 years. In addition to new jobs, the clusters represent about 54% of the replacement demand jobs that will be available over the next 10 years. These are jobs that become available not because of new growth, but because individuals are retiring. Not only are the clusters incredibly important job creators, they're also important in terms of economic output for the county. Combined, the three clusters account for nearly $2.5 billion of Saratoga's gross regional product, and that's about 25% of the Saratoga's total GRP. The job multiplier for these clusters range from 1.4 to 2.7. With this, I'm going to hand it over to Bill. He'll take a moment to explain a little bit about WIB and our history and their history and how this collaboration and partnership is evolving.
Thank you, Tori. So I'm Bill Resi. I'm the Executive Director of the Saratoga Warren Washington Workforce Investment Board. As Melinda mentioned, there's going to be a change in federal legislation effective July 1st. So down the road a little bit, if you hear Workforce Investment Board, fine. If you hear Workforce Development Boards, same thing, a little name change, a little change in emphasis there. I'm coming from a little bit more of a regional perspective, and obviously includes Saratoga County. I've actually been working in this field since 1979, so it's time for me to move on probably, but seen a lot of things happen, and a lot of things that weren't happening that should. And this type of collaboration is an example of one of those things that should be happening. A couple years back, our Workforce Investment Board, and I'd like to mention John Herrick, who was one of our leaders of our Workforce Investment Board sitting right here, made a decision that we wanted to make a change in the way we were doing business. And we decided to take a business-first approach and make the needs of business the focus of what we're doing, and then trying to design not only our activities, but just the way we functioned around that. And so with that, we basically took the input from our workforce board. We decided how we were going to reach out and make connections both with business organizations and employers. And we were going to come up with a strategy to identify needs and to come up with resources and services to address those needs. So that's fairly new for us. It's been underway. We've had a few projects going on. One of the key points there, and one of the crowning jewels of what we had in mind, was trying to put together some kind of workforce planning teams and in the community, which would include education, economic development, that type of thing. So last fall, we were at the point to do our second round of needs assessment of employers and reaching out. This project came to us from SEDC in Des Moines, offering to do a joint workforce study. And quite honestly, it was not a situation where, oh, we're getting this offer and yeah, you know, we should probably say yes. It wasn't that at all. It fit perfectly into what we were looking at doing. And the resources brought by SEDC and Des Moines really leapfrogged much farther what we could possibly think of probably doing on our own. And so now we're looking at taking the results of this project and being able to wrap it around and expand a little bit even on a more regional basis. So we're really appreciative of the ability to collaborate like this. Another interesting point when you're looking at the sectors that we're going to go over is that each year on a regional and local basis we're supposed to identify key sectors. And good news is the sectors we've identified over the last few years, the same sectors that we're talking about here through this study. So that worked out very well. The first industry sector, and as we go through the three sectors, we're going to be looking at the background, some of the background facts, and also the challenges. And we're just going to run through this real quick here. As you can see, with advanced manufacturing, projected to grow 35% by 2024. This may not be the largest sector by employment by any means in the speaking regionally, but certainly the economic impact of manufacturing is probably the top, or one of the top couple industries as far as the impact it has on the region. So it's very, very important aspect. Nearly 6,000 openings over the next 10 years, both new and replacement demand there. Certainly everybody's aware of the aging workforce and the need to address that. High wages, even for workers without the 4-year professional degrees. We find that, especially with jobs that are related to STEM, middle skill jobs, approximately close to half of the jobs in New York State that were going to be available in the projected future were going to be jobs that were of a middle skills nature, and that fits perfectly into the advanced manufacturing sector. Technical skills required. Well, soft skills is not really a technical skill, but you can't get away from it. You just keep hearing soft skills, soft skills, soft skills. I was just touring one of the classrooms here earlier in the week and doing the training for one of the manufacturers local that Hudson Valley is doing. In the classroom, they have a simulation. They're running through the simulation, and they're able to make it break down. And when it breaks down, then the process is, well, how do you fix it? And so they get to use some meters or tools to try to make the fix. But it's also that problem-solving aspect, so that if they can do it in the classroom, then when they get on the manufacturing floor, they can apply that same problem-solving aspect. So very important there. Things like workmanship skills, ability to use tools that I just mentioned, employers are saying that's a key need. Specifically for some of the advanced manufacturing, you already heard it, electrical and mechanical technology, very important. The president of HUCC mentioned mechatronics. It's a local program being put together, and that's going to address hopefully a lot of needs, and that's going to be a great resource to mesh those two areas together to provide the needed skills. Another example, as far as technical skills needed, we're hearing a lot of the trades that are involved, the needs for those trades-related folks, instrumentation, PLCs, that type of thing. Machine tool. One of the projects we did was develop a machine tool program, and basically it was a matter of listening to employers. They have a need, put a program together that they designed, and it's off and running, and they're hiring people because it's the kind of program that they wanted. So those are some examples of some of the technical skills that are involved. Industry challenges, rapid growth, challenge to maintain the pipeline, certainly is a challenge. Programs like was mentioned already, the early college high school program, which is a great example with the leadership here at Hudson Valley and Boston Spa Schools. A wonderful program, and that's starting to expand, and that type of program model is being taken on by others. A great way to bring along the youth. Technical skills required, associate's degrees, positions increasing by 50%. Again, the comment that projections are that 50% of the positions that are going to be requiring middle skills, so that's greater than high school, less than a 4-year degree. Lack of understanding of career opportunities in the field and finding appropriately skilled workers. Well, there's a lot of activities that can be done there. Again, back to the early college high school, but you look at things addressing youth, addressing job seekers, and addressing the incumbent workers. Just doing projects involved with career awareness, and there's a variety of things that could be done along these lines that aren't being done. These are some projects that, collaborations, and it really will take collaboration of education, economic development, workforce development to try to make these things happen. But career awareness type activities, programs that will develop those soft skills, program models like that machine tool program I just mentioned, where you can do some short-term training, move people into jobs. Those are ways to try to help address some of those skills needs. As far as the health and wellness sector, certainly a large, stable industry. Certainly over the years, the work we've done in doing training programs has probably been the number one. We've done a lot of training in there. It's probably the number one biggest sector that we do any training in at any given time. Significant projected growth, the largest number of openings projected over the next 10 years from the other sectors we were looking at. Wide range of wages and education requirements. As Melinda mentioned, the progression from CNA along the line, there's the opportunity for those stackable credentials and moving along a career pathway. The industry challenges, the cost of additional training to move up the ladder. We've seen a lot of instances with that with folks as far as being able to take the time out of work to get the extra skills. We've tried to do some collaborative projects working with CNAs moving up along the pipeline. And so it is a challenge to take the time to make that happen. Finding clinical space and a shortage of instructors. We've heard that nationally, but we've also experienced some of that in dealing with folks locally as well. Many low-paid positions. That is true of this industry. It's also very much female-dominated, too, in this industry. Higher concentration of older healthcare workers than in the U.S. So, again, the aging workforce issue is very important, especially locally for that. Industry background on tourism and hospitality. Large cluster in the area, both especially in Saratoga, but also regionally, very large industry. Projected growth 17%, significant openings, 6,300 over the next 10 years. Many part-time and seasonal positions. I know what I've experienced over the years, just a little bit north of here, it would be typical for folks to have that summer employment. That's their job. They leave that in the wintertime. They're on unemployment insurance. The employer is very happy for that because they want that worker to come back. They don't want to have to go searching for new workers. And it became a cycle, and that was the employment cycle of some of those individuals. Low education requirements for a lot of the positions. The industry challenges that are starting to come through that we're looking at with the study. Certainly the low wages and the lack of a career ladder. Part-time work and seasonality, it gets to the comment maybe I just made. Competition for workers because they're trying to, in many cases, grab each other's workers. More technical skills required than in the past, using social media, setting flexible rates. So, yeah, as more things are online, using Facebook, emailing, whatever, to get specials out or various other ways of communicating the opportunities, trying to attract that customer in this industry is requiring some different skills for the workers. Some employees lack customer service training. I think that's a fair comment, not only in this industry. We hear that across the board in a lot of industries. That is certainly a skill and an occupation related to many industries. And the growing need for high dining, wait, and culinary staff as this area becomes more successful because of the opportunities being made available here through educational facilities, but the location of some of the major industries that you've heard about. It's also going to require other niche areas and various levels of experience with dining, for example, that are being looked for. So as a higher level dining experience is being sought, the skills that go along with that and the training that goes along with that is also going to be needed. Tori's going to sum up the challenges, and then we'll move into those breakout sessions.
So a little bit about our history very quickly was, over the years, SEDC's collaborative efforts to grow our county's economy has paid big dividends. And in 2014, we actually substantiated the impact of our achievements by working with Camoin Associates to do a fiscal impact analysis. The report revealed that SEDC has assisted with over 200 attraction, expansion, and relocation projects. We helped to generate more than 17,500 new jobs, $12 billion in investment, and $34 million in annual tax revenue for Saratoga County and the Capital Region. So what are we doing these days to continue Saratoga's enjoying tremendous economic and community assets? Saratoga Innovation is SEDC's plan for our future, and it includes some of the following strategies for the next 5 years. It will be to continue helping local employers invest more in Saratoga County. It will aggressively market and sell Saratoga County to targeted prospects, will prioritize building capacity to expand economic opportunity, and will intensify investor relations and communications. We anticipate the outcomes of the proposed 5-year plan, once fully implemented, to include a close on a total of 30 projects equaling 500 new primary jobs, $23 million in new primary salaries, and $100 million in new capital investment. So the overall challenges we've identified are awareness of positions available in all the industries, large population commuting out of the area for work, awareness of resources for employers, the time required to create new education programs, awareness of resources for job seekers, low enrollment in some of our community college programs, the overall cost of living for Saratoga, the availability of mass transportation, and our aging workforce.
Great, thank you, Tori and Bill. So I think they were able to give you a background on this particular project, their particular needs, and I can't help to think that many of you are experiencing sort of the same things within the, these are key industries within your communities. Workforce is becoming just a larger and larger issue, and that needs to be addressed. We're in the process of working with SEDC and the WIB on developing that strategy. And so we're looking for your help now today. We're building on sort of the work that and the session format that was done in Hartford about 3 months ago that worked really well, where we had 3 different communities and presentations that were made, and participants were then asked to get together and provide sort of their input and their thoughts, their suggestions, recommendations. In this particular session, you've heard the one situation, and so what we want to do at this point is utilize some of your experience. We've got economic development and workforce professionals here today. We want you to break into groups and share your experiences. It could be references to where you've seen best practices going on in your community or around you. And we want to break into the 4 groups: advanced manufacturing, health and wellness, tourism and hospitality, and then we'd like a 4th group that just sort of focuses on economic development and workforce collaboration. So anything you've been experiencing yourselves, you're seeing in your state, your region, and you're going to set it up even further for us?
You're ready.
I'm ready. All right. Go ahead.
So, as Rob said, folks, just for a minute, a little more guidance, a little more guidance. You can give a best practice, you can throw them a question, you can throw them a reference, anything that you think would be helpful to help them move the ball forward in the 3 sectors and in the joint collaboration, economic development and workforce development. I am going to give you about 27 minutes. Then I'll give you some more counsel.
Three of the issues that we kind of discussed based on a kind of adult daycare issues was the following. One of the issues that came up was creating a pool of workers who could enter the nursing program from colleges and universities, creating programs that will create that pool of certified nurses and RNs that can come into the programs and man these facilities. We start out with something very basic, regulatory reform, and one of the things we kind of talked about a little bit more in the minute we had was the streamlining of reporting requirements. I guess that's a frustration for the medical wellness profession, is there are a lot of reporting requirements, trying to streamline those and make those easy to accomplish. And then the other thing we talked about was a lot of these jobs in these fields are low paying. And so one of the problems that a lot of these younger folks have is if they have children, they need daycare providing adequate regional daycare for employees, affordable daycare that they can leave their children and then be able to work even in these low-paying wage jobs. So those are our three.
Thank you, Jim. Can you write healthcare on those three?
I'm Tom Morano. I'm with Middletown, Connecticut, and I am on the board also. So this is tourism and hospitality. We had three problems that we were trying to solve, which is improving customer service, identifying career ladder opportunities, and decreasing the turnover rate. So we think the first thing that you ought to do is go to all of the tourism and hospitality businesses and then create an alliance so that they can tackle this together. And we think that they should develop sort of basic tourism and hospitality customer service 101 so that people coming through this program can have a local certification so they can go from business to business and say, hey, I've taken this course and I'm certified in that. So that is number one. Any thoughts on that from my team? Hearing none, thank you. We thought about also, as part of that, knowing that Saratoga, for example, is a two-season community, that we would have a dual track for winter-oriented tourism and summer-oriented also, because they're going to have specific skills, we think, and so you can create this dual track sort of thing. Yes, ma'am.
So the idea of that is that there are people, obviously, who just want to come and work seasonally, but there are other people who would like to have a consistent place to live and have work throughout the year, and maybe in the past all they've been able to do is find the summer work or the winter work. So we're trying to create it's not so much a career pathway as it is a consistency in their lives so that they can work the year round and have the skills they need.
Okay, and third, to help recruit, we thought about there is a very large population of people who are now retiring or they are cutting back on working full-time, and there is a body of folks who might just want to work part-time, do a little restaurant work, do a little hospitality work, and so there's my particular generation is 78 million people, and we are rapidly giving it up. So that is a pretty big pool. You also want to work with your companies that you might be recruiting here, because they all have trailing spouses and trailing families, and first of all, they're going to want to know whether or not you've got employment opportunities for them, and so you might want to make that, create a program especially for them. And then you have students coming back from school. You might create a website, workhere.com, so they can register and put their resumes out there, and your local tourism and hospitality businesses can look into that. And last but not least, we would create a movement amongst the tourist and hospitality businesses for paying a livable wage. One of the reasons that you can't recruit, you can't keep, because people are making $8 or $9 an hour and they can go anywhere. Whereas if there was a local movement to raise wages, they might be able to keep employees who want to work there and stay there, who see an opportunity to learn a trade, maybe get into ownership, learn how to cook, whatever. This would be very heavy lifting. And that's all we got.
All right, we had advanced manufacturing, and we were trying to hit on three things: raising awareness of advanced manufacturing positions, building a pipeline of workers, and finding opportunities for collaborative training opportunities. So we came up with 4 ideas. The ideas really touch on just about all of them. So the first one is to capture what we were calling the boomerang generation, maybe a younger boomerang, 19 to 25, who may not have finished college. So they started college and now they're back, and they may typically enter more of like a retail, but I teach them about the opportunities to enter advanced manufacturing career and the ways to do that. So finding ways to communicate with them. And on the other end of the spectrum, creating a training program for the 50 and over demographic. And we had an example of Vermont Associates, which does this in northern Vermont. The next one is engage school boards and guidance departments to do tours and educate them about the need so that they are more knowledgeable about when they're talking to their students that may not be on the college track. And the final one is create a liaison between education and business to help break down any maybe language or comfort barriers that might exist between communication so that everyone can speak the same language and find out what the opportunities and needs are between those two groups.
So our job was to come up with recommendations for getting economic development and workforce development folks to basically talk to each other and collaborate. So our first recommendation was focus groups, to develop focus groups of major employers for each of the 3 targeted sectors so that they're hearing from each other and they're all in the room, they're talking to each other, and then both the economic development and the workforce development folks are hearing what those needs are. So kind of related to what some of you all have said. And this is related to that, convene diverse groups of stakeholders to have an honest assessment. Honesty, being realistic with your expectations and what you can deliver was a big theme in our conversation. And then also building a really robust SWOT analysis. We talked about business visitation and setting up a common platform so that all organizations can access something online that tracks business retention and expansion efforts, as well as education, training efforts, and just conversations with those businesses. And then we had 2 related to food, so I don't know what that says about our group, but we had the mantra, if you feed them, they will come, so both related to focus groups, and also take your local economic developer or workforce developer to lunch. Again, just having the constant, continuous dialogue.
So, again, pick whatever short list of things you heard that you said, wow, what a cool idea. I want to do something with that. All right?
For me particularly was the creating alliance to tackle and the local certification that can go from business to business. I think that that's an excellent idea, and especially with tourism and improving the overall customer service on the front end. I think we've chatted about that quite extensively with the global cultural awareness and how many of our visitors are first greeted by retail or hospitality. And I think that that idea for me personally, improving the customer service and the local certification that can go from position to position is wonderful. There was actually so many good ideas. I think that's the one that really kind of stuck out to me immediately. Bill, did you have something different?
Yep. Well, I particularly like the one revolving around food. That was my favorite. But I as well liked that particular idea that you just mentioned as well. Also, the focus groups for each sector. Certainly liked pursuing that. Let's see. There was one, I got to read my own writing here. Posting resumes for the tourism industry and, creating some synergy going on there with, as a resource for folks to draw from. I like that one. And there was one other one. I guess it was the Joint Alliance, all right, for under tourism that we just mentioned.
Engaging schools with the guidance counselors and businesses. I think that would be imperative, and if we can have more educators, better educated about what business opportunities are in their immediate areas, it would be so beneficial to the students.
Also, the older worker one, too. I mean, we've looked at that before. Trying to do something with the older workers and using that as a resource to try to develop more. There's definitely fertile ground there. Yeah.
Thank you.
So, before you leave, how was this experience for you in terms of learning, for the two of you?
Great. This was wonderful.
I'm sorry.
They're recording it, that's why.
Sorry. This was wonderful, and thank you so much for including us and letting us bring our project to this group. It's just been great, and I know that our plan will be better delivered in the end, because of your input today. So thank you very much.
And I would just add, for us, it's not just the study itself that's being done and the information that'll come from it, but the fact that this is an opportunity to have a collaborative project to be working on, and going forward to look at other opportunities, other types of projects that we can get more done collaboratively on.
Beyond this one.
Right.
Yeah. So we should thank you all. Now, last question. At your table, just take 2 minutes, have a discussion about what you learned about this approach to professional learning.
We learned that if you can bring a group of people together who have never met each other, you can get a lot of new ideas. So many of us go to conferences and meetings, and we sit with our friends and people who are familiar, and we know their stories and we know what they're coming from. But today we sat around here, a bunch of people who largely have never met each other, and we got some really great ideas out of it. So I think that's something that we really learned today.
Thank you.
We have three things. I will echo, Bruce, what you said about having people from outside your world get cross-fertilization, diversity of ideas is really, really important. Having small groups of people having discussions about things that matter is so important for adult learning, because we learn about what we care about, and when we can really sit and think together, it's really important. And then there's a related theme of peer-to-peer interchange in learning.
I think we definitely have hit just about every button along the way here, but I think another big thing is that we all have a capacity to learn something new every day, and learning from our peers that are involved in something we do or learning what they do is always important.
Yeah, I learned I kind of probably prepare a little bit earlier for a presentation. But no, just really the opportunity to share ideas, as the first person mentioned. That's just the best. It just gives you so much to walk away with and can get energized about.
Jim Demesis. He is the president of NEDA. He, like myself and others, got a little lost. We went to the campus down in Troy and blah, blah, blah.
Thanks, Robert. Yeah, and I had to cross 2 national forests to get here, and that didn't go very well. And there's no cell coverage either. That's okay. I made it, and I was here for the last hour or so. So thank you. I'll be very brief. Thank you all for coming. Thank you, Robert, for facilitating. And thank all of you because you participated. This is a bit of a different style where rather than just do presentations and a few questions, it's really participatory. So on behalf of NEDA, I want to thank everybody. This is the kind of thing we'll be doing in the future. I know Jim Kibe hit on this in the beginning, but we're doing a lot more webinars, education programs, and then we've got our conference this fall coming in Syracuse, which isn't exactly local, but it is in state. So thank you and have a good night.
Remember the dates?
I don't remember the dates.
Jim, dates? Syracuse.
September 13th through 15th in Syracuse. So hopefully we'll see you there. If you're not a NEDA member, please feel free to ask somebody who is. And the theme?
Leveraging community assets. Our community assets. Yes, leveraging our community assets.
Thanks.